So we were just talking about before you popped on here, and I'm going to do a proper introduction, but Sylvia was just saying she was taking a class, a fitness class, and the instructor told her, you know, what you're doing is enough. It's enough. And I say, no, you need to do more.
Come on.
Everyone needs
enough.
to do more. Mediocrity. That's what we're going to create.
You're like a maximalist. You're like a maximalist, but like in life, not just like, this is maximalism, but you're a maximalist in life. More is more,
Yeah, more. See, and we were just talking about that. I'm the never enough person, and Syl is the it's enough person. But I don't know. Like I said, if we start sending that message out there, please do what you're doing. Everything you're doing is enough. Mediocrity.
The Hollow Buddy. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I am Kristen Zeman, and I am here with my affable, analytical, affectionate, ambitious co-host, Sylvia Moyer.
What? Whoa,
Yeah,
all the A words.
A lot of A words.
I
got
and you are
so
awesome.
many A words. Oh my gosh, thank you. I got so many A words for you today, and I'm feeling all of them about you today. So we are the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. And this podcast, your co-hosts are a couple of former police chiefs, but oh no, this podcast is for anyone interested in talking about life and leadership, and particularly the lessons that we have learned about both. And those lessons fill up the Hollow Bunny. So that's the metaphor for you listeners. We do have room for more listeners. We have millions right now, but there's always room for more. I had the distinct pleasure of being invited to the Serving with Pride Gala in Ontario. It was remarkable. I was able to speak there. And that event was co-hosted. It was co-hosted Serving with Pride and the Peel Regional Police. And I do want to shout out quickly to the Serving with Pride organization because they try to have an optimized work environment to include diversity, integrity, awareness, and equity of LGBTQ plus employees within policing, corrections, and the criminal justice profession, which is amazing because what happens when you do that? It's Canada, man. Miles ahead of us. But what happens when you do that is it builds a criminal justice system where organizations are sensitive to the unique needs of the community. And they build bridges. That's what they do. So there I am at this event, and it's a glorious event. And I have the distinct pleasure to watch this beautiful drag diva. So there is this amazing and acrobatic performance by this gorgeous diva, Jezebel Bardot. And I stayed up until 2 a.m. because she got me on my feet.
No, you didn't.
I did. And I go to bed at 9. No. I go to bed at 9. I know. Let me tell you.
Hard out at 9.
Hard out. Let me tell you, because nothing good happens after 9, but on this particular night, everything good happened after 9. So here is who we have today. Jezebel Bardot is Toronto's French-Canadian drag diva, starting her career with impersonations of comedy tycoon Joan Rivers. Jezebel has modeled her stage persona around strong, inspiring women such as Joan Rivers, Celine Dion, and my Dolly. By day, Jezebel works in education and has a background in sports psychology and phys ed. But on stage, this translates into Jezebel's characteristic heart, wit, and striking athleticism, which I can attest to. I saw it with my eyes. Just like a tall glass of fine French wine, Madame Bardot serves full body, pairs well with meaty dishes, and leaves a sweet aftertaste. Let me tell you, welcome.
Finish.
Welcome, Jezebel Bardot, to our little baby podcast with millions of listeners.
Well, good morning, kids. It's good to be here. It's good to see you again, Kristen.
It's so
and nice
good
to meet you, Sylvia.
Nice to meet you, Jason Jezebel. How should we how should we refer to you on this podcast
Right.
for all of our listeners?
So typically it's, when we refer to somebody, especially a performer who takes on another character, you refer to them as they present. So I'm here as Jason today. If I'd be in full get up and drag and wig and the boobs and all that stuff, it would be nice to be called Jezebel or her. But when I put my boobs out in the drawer, then it's Jason again.
Oh,
How convenient is
don't
that?
you know who you're
Yeah.
with? I love boobies.
Yeah.
Oh, what a ripoff.
Oh,
Okay, so
Sylvia,
the next
you
time,
put your boobs
so
away
we'll
at night
refer to you as
too.
Jason. No, they came in, as a teenager, and they just stayed right where they are. Never made anything of their lives. They come in, they're still perky. They don't want to go anywhere. So, Jason, it is so nice to meet you. What a remarkable story you have, and what a delight that this little dish over here, Miss Kristen Zeman, got to see you perform, and then invited you to our podcast, and then you are here.
Right. Well,
Can't wait to
I'm
hear more.
fangirling too because I was able to listen to Kristen speak, and it was just so inspiring. And how lucky are the people that got to work under her leadership. So it's honestly it's a pleasure to be here and to speak with you too, and share a little bit of my story and hear more and learn more about you guys.
Oh,
Can't
I
wait.
love it. So let me tell you. So after you performed, I fell in love with you in that moment as Jezebel. And then what happened was you took the microphone at this gala, and I literally stopped in my tracks when I heard you say that you are an elementary school principal by day. And at a Catholic elementary school. Now, this, as we joked earlier about, Canadians being miles ahead, but it struck me, and in all seriousness, it was one of those moments where I had this, it was a clash of cultures, and I live in Florida, where they are banning more books than anywhere else in the United States, where drag shows are being canceled, because of all of the ridiculous, faux reasons, that people are coming up with. And it breaks my heart. And then to hear that you are Jezebel Bardot by night and weekend, and here you are, as a Catholic school principal. Can you just tell us how these paths converged and how you came to be who you are? I know that's a heavy lift, but I just want to know everything. I want to keep you on here all day.
It's all a big accident, to be honest. Both it all just happened by accident, and just by putting one foot in front of the other and refusing to be nothing less than just yourself. That's how it is. So I don't know where to begin. It's like, is it the egg or the rooster? Which one comes first, the drag
Right?
queen or the educator? I don't know. But I don't know. It's tricky. It's I don't know if you guys know this, but here in Ontario, or in Canada anyways, but specifically here in Ontario, I live in Toronto, and in the province of Ontario, we have 4 educational systems that are publicly funded. So you have your English speaking public boards, and your Catholic boards are publicly funded. And you also have French public boards, which is open to everybody, and then French Catholic as well. And then you have a whole private system.
Wow.
And that's publicly funded. And I happen to work for the French Catholic School Board. I'm from Quebec originally. I don't know if you've ever been to Montreal. It's very cold. It's beautiful. And we have amazing food. But my dad was in the military, so I grew up in a military base just about 2 hours north of Toronto. And I was playing sports my entire life. I come from a sports family, and that's the beauty of being on a military base. You have all this massive infrastructure of gyms and pools and stuff like that. And so it was very cheap for me to do sports. And so I was always involved in sports. And so I did volleyball, I did swimming, I did hockey, obviously I'm Canadian. And I did gymnastics and martial arts. And that's where I really excelled. I went to eventually to become a national team. I won on the Canadian National Championships twice. And so what happened is that I was kind of destined to go towards a very famous circus. You may have heard of it, Cirque du Soleil, which is a
What?
product of
Gasp.
Montreal. It originated in Montreal, and it's been in Vegas now for a gazillion years, and it's a very iconic company. I wanted to go towards Cirque du Soleil because I've always been an athlete and a performer, and I've done improv and theater and all that stuff, and that's where I was heading. And there's so many curveballs that were thrown my way through injury, through my dad getting injured in the military, retiring at the age of 40, having to go take care of his ill parents back in Quebec, and I was looking at the way the military kind of took care of my dad with his pension and his situation. And I was like, is Cirque du Soleil, or is like a private company like that going to take care of me? Like, what am I going to do when I'm 35, 40, the age of my dad, and all broken and injured? Am I going to have a pathway to a successful career, or what am I going to do at 35, 40, And is Cirque du Soleil just glamour, or is it a career that I can have for a long time? And anyway, so I changed my course and I became a phys ed teacher. Because I love sports and I love teaching kids, and I was kind of coaching gymnastics when I was young. And it just led me very quickly through leadership roles within my board, within my organization, from teacher to advisor to principal to vice principal. I was interim principal in Peel when I met you. I'm back at my advisory role now at the board. We can go through that later. But yeah, and then eventually I found out the art of drag, and that just became my own Cirque du Soleil. So.
Well, and also I can attest to the athleticism. Jezebel was rocking it. I mean, acrobatic moves that I was like, "Whoa, did that hurt?" Like, I mean, just cringeworthy for me. But rocking the stage, and again had the energy in that, and there was that gala was gargantuous. There were so many people there, and just the energy that you brought. So I love that. That path is certainly not a traditional path, but I love where it took you. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, thanks. It's it's funny that I never thought I'd become a drag queen at all, and it's not something that I think anybody wakes up and like, I want to be a drag queen when I grow up, kind of thing. Maybe the kids nowadays, but I don't know. I just felt it when I moved to Toronto. I was in a small town before, and I moved to Toronto, and I just discovered drag. I'd go out in gay bars and see them perform, and I thought that they were just fabulous, and they looked like they were having so much fun on stage. And what was fun also, you met my partner in crime, Vitality Black, who is an amazing Tina Turner impersonator, and her and I are best of friends. We laugh together, we hang out together, we really have each other's back. I don't trust very many people, but her is like, she's my ride or die. She's like my she's awesome. I love her. And so we had the best of time that night. But yeah, I never thought I'd become a drag queen. When I moved to Toronto, these shows have you ever been to a drag show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yes.
you're in Florida.
Yes.
You have Palace that's like iconic.
Oh, come on, Jason. I'm in Marin County, California, right outside of San Francisco.
Oh,
come
yes.
on.
Oh my gosh, I know. Okay,
Florida,
sorry.
Florida is like what? Come on, Kristen. We can brawl on
Yeah, we could. And it's so interesting that you've asked, have I ever been? And it's funny is, we've taken our kids, we have 4 children, and we have in Chicago, where I'm from, I just moved to Florida, but drag brunches, and taken our children who also love it so much. And it just, and for my son is an actor. And so we just love everything performance related. And so, it's so interesting how the evolution, especially of drag performance in the US, has become, this conservative talking point, for everything that is bad. And it's like, I look back, on our lives and taking our children, and I wouldn't change a thing. I love it so much. And I just love the inclusiveness that it brings. And, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, have you had any challenges, in reconciling these careers? Have parents given you any problems, or is it truly not even an issue in Canada the way it is here?
To be honest, I think it is if you decide to make it an issue.
Yeah.
I don't breathe air into any of the negativity, and it just doesn't seem to stick to me, to be quite honest. I've had some real tough issues. especially as a teacher, I found I was fine in the sense that I was always unapologetically myself. Kids would ask, "Are you married?" And I'm been with my partner Richard for 11 years now. And so I'd say, "Oh, I have a partner at home," and the kids tend to just be like, "Oh, okay, that's cool," and then move on and go play soccer, kind of thing, right? It's I think what happened is like in any space, once you put yourself out there and you start kind of taking space and climbing up the ranks. When I became vice principal, I was 26 when I became a vice principal. I was very, very young.
Wow.
And it turned some heads, not just the fact that I was a young person in a leadership role, but anybody who thought that I would take too much space. It's an easy thing to go and poke at and to say, well, look at how bad this person is, what this person does on weekends, blah, blah, blah. So it's been tricky. And, you know, a lot of the sentiment here that I see is kids these days see drag as an artist. They see us as makeup artists. Their first access to us is through social media, through being an influencer for a beauty brand or something like that, or through television. Whereas I find people who are a little bit older, they tend to have that idea, that stigma, which is true in part, exists, that a drag queen is some foul-mouthed, vulgar, sexualized creature that lurks around in nightclubs and has nothing else in their lives but drinking alcohol and talking about dick all day. You know what I mean? And there's parts of that. Yes, you have that drag queen, but parts
Okay,
of
pause there.
right.
And you've also just described like strip clubs with straight white men.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? Like what the hell? So,
Right,
you know,
but that's
but and
The
also
extreme.
now with you know, you used to have to go into a nightclub to see what a drag queen was all about and blah blah blah. And now what happens, and this applies to everything, is that, you know, you get one drag queen who says something really awful or bad or vulgar, and you put that on social media. You know, it didn't just stay in the basement of this nightclub, you know, that joke. It's all over the place. So now I carry the burden of bad moves from my peers, right? And same with you guys, you know, you're police officers, you know, you carry the stigma that's around that, and the negativity that's around your colleagues who did bad things, and it's all over social media, and that cop that's punching that kid that's down, you know what I mean? Like you're not that person.
Yep.
But people, because you're wearing the uniform, well, now because I'm wearing the wig, I'm some groomer, or I'm somebody who made sexual gestures in front of children at brunch. Like, no, I carry myself in my way. And that's how, through my leadership too, is I try as a school administrator, and I try as a leader in my organization to just take people individually the way that they are. And that's how I want to be dealt with. And that's how I want to be seen. And that's how I find success in uniting people in an often very divided room. And when you met me, I was interim principal at a school for a very short time in Peel region. And it you know, when you walk in as a leader in a temporary way, is because their leader is gone for a reason that's usually sad. It's either an illness, it's either something went wrong with a fellow colleague, an employee, whatever. And so you're never really there in the greatest times. So what do you do as a leader? You don't, you know, I don't try to change the organization. I just try to keep the climate as positive as possible. And because there's instability at the top, you need to keep stability at the very base and your frontline people. So to get to know your staff, to get to know your teachers, to get to know them individually so that you can get the most out of them. They feel like they're actually part of the leadership, and they are. Everybody's part of the leadership. But by coming in as this temporary leader and just jumping into a space and making it your own, that's not how you can navigate in those tricky situations, right? So I don't know. I just tried to. It was a tricky time when I met you. So yeah.
Understood.
Okay, I have hundreds of questions. I really want to dive into this piece because a lot of our listeners serve in these interim roles like you did, Jason. And what they found is they have different approaches. And it sounds like what you did was you brought your leadership, you showed up, and your character was on full display for everyone during that time. There's a lot to be said for your behavior. Is really, it's your values, right? It is what you stand for. And my mom used to say, you don't have to tell people your values, your behavior describes it for them or demonstrates or illustrates it for them. You were authentically you. How do we cultivate that in other people?
Well,
How do you do it? What do you
it,
tell our listeners about that?
it actually came, it wasn't as easy as at the very beginning, because when I first became a vice principal, I did drag on weekends, and so that was tricky. And I used to do it as a teacher. It was a little bit easier as a teacher because you're not in a leadership role and whatnot. And it's not like I talked about it at work, and I was very afraid to talk about it at work. I was like, oh my gosh, can I get fired for this and that sort of stuff. And it's when I became a vice principal, I said, I love drag. Drag is my art. It's what's different for me to dress up as Celine Dion on weekends. I'm not a stripper. I'm a performer. I take on a character. I do Joan Rivers or
Mm-hmm.
Celine Dion or Jennifer Lopez, whatever. And I make people laugh and dance. And as Kristen saw, move and just enjoy their evening. And that's really all I do. I just do it in character. That's no different from, the straight guys who go out and play in a garage band on weekends and have a bunch of beers. Like there's no
Right.
difference in that, right? So
Well, nobody's throwing their underwear at you, I'm thinking,
correct.
right?
No,
On
no,
stage.
no.
I mean, there's a difference.
You get some wild bachelorette parties here and there. And yes, of course, you do a song and you have some guy who comes up and puts money in your bra, oh, big deal. But at one point when I became vice principal, I used to finish my drag shows on Sundays, which it was early, 6 to 9 p.m. So I could be home and in bed by 11 and back at work on Monday at a decent time. But I would remove my nail polish and my fake nails. And what's funny is that it was a male teacher, a straight male teacher, who eventually, a couple months in, maybe halfway through the school year, said to me, he's like, Jason, I know what you do on weekends. I've seen you in shows before, and I'm just curious to know, like, why don't you share that with us? Because
Oh,
whenever we talk
Wow.
about our weekends and whatnot, and he was a music teacher, and I saw him at a few like open stage stuff, and there's some ever I've seen him play before out in public in different festivals and things like that. And he's like, what I do and what you do is no different. And it was
oh,
just and it was such a casual
Right?
conversation, and it was me going into the staff room and like filling up my water bottle kind of thing. And it's just when management and the staff can meet in these unstructured times that these types of conversation, and you can't imagine the pressure that I just went like, whew, that's great. Because I was also there with a credibility issue, right? Because I'm a 26-year-old vice principal in a school. I'm one of the youngest staff there. The majority of the people there are women that are my mom's age. And who am I to go there as their boss? You know what I mean? So I already had to have a collaborative approach. I was on my best behavior in the sense that I was like, shit, I already have a credibility issue here because I'm so young in this leadership role, trying to navigate that. And on top of that, if they find out that I do dick jokes at Joan Rivers in a gay bar on weekends, I'm done. So
right.
I was so careful to kind of hide that. And it's funny because drag is such a liberating thing, but it actually put me back in the closet when I
Oh,
got
yeah.
into an admin role. So I was kind of like
Yeah.
flamboyant and loud as a teacher because I felt like I had nothing to lose really. But when I became an administrator, drag put me back in the closet, and it was a straight man through allyship and just through
Oh,
empathy and curiosity who allowed me to be myself again. And all I ended up doing was just on Sunday nights, I just stopped removing my nail polish. And,
so Jason, I want to read something that you wrote on Instagram, and it moved me, and it's just so apropos to what you're saying. So you wrote, "It's my second day as an elementary school principal, and the grade 6 came up with a name for me, Mr. Slay. I guess the orange nails and floral shirt gave it away because when I walked down the hallway, all I heard was, 'Oh my God, Slay.' They had no questions, no judgment, just pure love and appreciation for this complete stranger who was just perhaps a little, quote, different than other principals. What an amazing welcome. The inclusion, love, and respect these kids show is incredibly humbling. We can learn so much from them. I aspire to do the same in return and create a climate and space where everyone can be themselves and feel good to be at school. Just
Right.
drop the mic right there.
Come on. Come on.
And everything that you have just said from the beginning of this conversation, of when you said, I just decided to show up as myself. And then how that allyship, when you struggled with, now I'm an administrator. So now what if I'm not accepted? What if I'm pushed out of my job? And to have someone, a straight man, say, hey, be who you are. It's those little reminders. Yes, those little reminders, because it's that shame that we judge. It's the shame that we impose on ourselves. And, and what I've said all the time is that shame, it permeates to others. When you feel a sense of shame about yourself, whether it's self-imposed or other people are applying that shame, it resonates. And then when we can shed that and just be proud, but that's not even the whole of it. That's the individual. But then what you are teaching these kids is to be authentically themselves. And what happens to the world when we do that? It's a kinder, gentler world. So I tell me about that moment when you're walking down the hallway and you hear these kids say that. What is going through your mind?
I I was floored. Those kids show just the validation. That's really what it is. It's just to say, "Hey, I see you," and that grade 6 girl showed so much leadership herself and so much maturity in just that moment to say, "Oh, okay, I see you." We didn't have to get into a conversation, and I wouldn't, about my private life, about what I do, about anything. We didn't necessarily have to go there, and she just said, "Oh, okay, I see you. All right, you look fabulous." And I just look, I guess, young and hip compared to the principals that they've had before.
And fabulous.
And sure. It's funny because when you can show, and I say this to teachers all the time too, when we try to build school climate, is don't be afraid to share your own interests and things like that. We do so much to try to learn about our new students, but also to be able to share about ourselves, and obviously within limits and within a certain framework, but to be able to share your own talents and things like that. And it's funny because I had a group of kids later in the year that were not playing well at recess, and things weren't necessarily working for them, and we've tried to put things in place, and just behavioral kids that just would have some issues. And it's funny because what I ended up saying, I just through talking to them in interventions, I found out what their interests were. And I said, would you guys like to know how, to make costuming or sewing or learning, and what I did is that obviously by talking to another lady, there's a woman among the staff, a teacher who's a great seamstress as well. And so I found, some fabrics and some stones and some glitter, and I showed them how to stone stuff. So now they're bejazzling their hats and things like that. And I'm not trying to make them a drag queen, but it's just to share something. And when you share about yourself, you get to find, commonality, and with these, there's zero problems with at recess anymore. We've have our little workshops. We're able to put different things in place. We share our interests. We're learning new skills that are not necessarily in the curriculum, and that's fabulous. But it comes through sharing of yourself and to being curious of others, right?
Right. And you stepping into this authenticity to just be who you are. The first time I saw Kristen speak was 100 years ago in Sacramento at the Women Leaders in Law Enforcement Conference. And she was talking about fly your freaky flag and just this authenticity to be who you are. I really have seen, and most of us have seen over the years, that the people that really release this pretense and they just let their true values and their character and themselves kind of show up and influence the space that they're in, there's not only a freedom, but there is a real connection with people. And it sounds like that's what you're describing, Jason.
Right. And there's speed bumps along the way. And I'll give you an example. And it's not always rosy. And I get a lot of, obviously, love and acceptance from kids and from staff and things like that. But here in Ontario in I think it was 2015, The health and physical education curriculum got a revamp. And the premier of the province was this woman named Kathleen Wynne. She was our first lesbian premier, and she was a former minister of education. And during her time as premier here in Ontario, she launched a new sex ed curriculum, which was updated from, I think, like the 2000 and like, I don't know, 4 or 8 version, whatever, or even before that. I think it was 1998. Sorry. And this new curriculum just included in the health and phys ed portion, it just changed. We'll talk about different family structures. We'll talk about in high school, we'll talk about gender expression and sexual orientation, sort of things that were out of there. But what that did is that it inflamed a lot of this more conservative right wing or just more conservative parents to say, look at this dyke premier who's now indoctrinating our children and launching this new phys ed curriculum. And then obviously I'm there as a vice principal of a Catholic elementary school. And I have parents who want to come in and talk, not to the principal, oddly, but they want to talk to the VP, me, because I think they know I'm a flaming homo. And they say, excuse me, sir, what is this gay agenda that you're using to indoctrinate our children, kind of thing? And so in those moments, you have to ask yourself, can I move the needle with this person and show them, or are they here to pick a fight, and am I going to be degraded during that? And there's a part of me that understands where they come from. I just think that they're emboldened and they're clumsy because they just replicate. They're imitators, not innovators, right? They show up and they just replicate the bull crap that they see on social media and want to boss up to you. But some of them who come with legitimate questions and say, listen, I'm worried about this. What can you tell me about this new curriculum, this new approach? And I think what I sense when regards to kids and sexual orientation and drag queens and all that stuff is, I think those are all topics that I think the majority of parents are open to have happen in schools and in community. But I think what they're worried about is the person that's going to be having this conversation going to be able to stay to a certain level of decorum and not go too far, right? Because of what happens with a lot of teachers is, kid ask a question. Not every moment is a learning opportunity, and not every moment's a teachable moment. And you have to understand that these are not your children. And that although, you can share of yourself and you can present facts and information, they go back to their family at the end of the day. Right. And so anyway, what I find is that when you have those moments when parents come in and ask those questions, they're hurtful at first because they attack your intent, they attack your integrity, they attack your character. But you have to ask yourself in that moment is, can I move forward with this lady or with this man? And I'd say in the majority of it, yes. And it's through polite, genuine conversation and depersonalizing their homophobia or I'm not trying to make straight people feel comfortable, but I just want to show them the humanity of who I am. And when they see that, then they can take, if it's just the tiniest step forward to say, okay, this is not as bad as I thought, or this is not, what I see on social media. Then you can move forward. But I always ask myself the question, can I move the needle with this individual?
Yeah, and I think that's a great starting place, even to have someone come in and hopefully not attack, but to ask questions. And that, as you mentioned, that is, a gift where someone says, I just don't understand and I am worried. And, to your point, you need to seek first to understand. And sometimes when you don't understand, that comes across, as it's fearful and it can be hurtful, but what I'm looking, you use the words that I hear on the news, almost every day of indoctrination, and grooming. And, and I just think it's so interesting, even here in Florida, which, I moved to on purpose, because I've noticed that, even the headlines that there are a lot of great people on the ground here, in Florida that don't feel the way that the talking heads do on the news. But it strikes me, is that this is what they're afraid of. And this is this word fear. They are afraid that, we are going to, any teacher, who is gay is going to turn their child gay. They are worried that, any conversations about lifestyles that may not fit the norm are going to indoctrinate their child child,
Mhm.
if any trans individual. And I have to stop because it is the most anti-intellectual thing I have ever heard. I mean, I am married to a woman. We have 4 children, and this is such a disappointment, but they're all straight. I mean, not one of them.
Your children,
my children are straight. I mean, it's
you're
it's
blowing the
heartbreaking.
math out of
Where
you're
did
blowing the
I
math.
go? Where did I go wrong? But
Oh,
and I
God,
say that in jest because of how preposterous it is. If that were the
course.
case, then the data would show that our children would be gay. But it's about leaning in and asking the questions. Just coming from a place of curiosity. I don't understand. But
Mhm.
it's just become so hateful here that we can't even have the conversation. And so I am just so grateful for people like you, and especially those
Yeah.
who can not only be themselves unapologetically. And you're right, there are a lot of speed bumps along the way.
Mhm.
I mean, I had been thrust because of my own shame back into the closet many times until it was actually my kids that were that helped me and said, geez, it's time, you two should get married. We're a blended family. And it was our kids that pushed us to the next level. I mean, that gives me so much hope for this next generation of people. And maybe they'll be the ones that straighten us out, and you of all people can attest to the hopefulness we have of our future.
Mhm.
You just
Mhm.
said straighten us out, which took me on off. but
Shit.
Jason, to this point, Jason, you're not only an incredible performer, but what an educator. I just feel this sense of curiosity, this intellectual curiosity. I go to this place where Aristotle was known to have said it is the mark of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it, right? You don't have
Mhm.
to accept the idea, but one of your responsibilities as an educator is to enlighten, to create a discerning mind, right? And it feels like that's what you're doing. And what Kristen talked about, this is kind of 2 different things that kind of go to this launching space for you, Jason, is this you're an educator to enlighten, to create curiosity, to exposed to different thought, different art and science and all the things that are out there in the education field. Then there's also this incredible thing that Kristen talked about, that there are folks that are so ignorant that they just go to character attack. It's like my brother when he was 8. It's like he can't deal with the discomfort, so he just goes, "You're an asshole."
Right.
So they just go immediately to character attack. You're A, fill in the blank. And so I think you have there's a necessity for you, for CEOs in business, in healthcare, with all the things that have gone on in healthcare, in policing, pick a field, to just be present. And perhaps the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz kind of helps us with this, where he says, be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, do your best every day, and don't make assumptions. And so you have to really be in that space with those parents as you described. Does any of that stir something in you that the Hollow Bunny podcast listeners can really take and chew on from your experience and your perspective? I have a guess there is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. It's funny because I thought of going to the public sector because I was like, you know what, I'm here with you know Catholics who are it's a very difficult intersection to be, and I'm a proud Catholic. I mean, I'm not at
Sure.
church every Sunday, but I mean, to be Catholic and to also be a gay man and to also do drag, and it's like I felt at times that I'm hated from my fellow drag queens in the left because I'm a sympathizer, to the Catholics, and I'm there, and I do things with the police, and oh my
Wow.
gosh, and so the left hates me, and then I go to work, and then the right hates me, and it's like, and then I realize that it's not about that. And it's also not about me. If you want to bring change, you have to bring change from within, and you got to be in the room if you want to move the needle, right? And again, it's just showing up and listening, and also not being afraid to share a little bit, who you are. It's yeah. I don't know if I'm answering your
Yeah,
question or if I'm sorry.
No, and you just said, you could have taken a different route because it might have been the easier route to take,
Hmm.
and instead, you chose to do this. And in knowing that there are going to be obstacles, and especially because, we talk about, religion, there is a distinct, idealism in religion, and homosexuality, and, and you've, these paths for you have converged, and you're truly remarkable in that way, in being courageous to show up and be you. And what I believe will happen, and this is what happens when we lean in, it is easy to hate from far away. It is so hard to hate close up, and that's usually what people do, is that they haven't met someone, so, and especially in my life, is those people who are extremely homophobic, and then they learn about me and they're like, oh wow, I didn't know that about you.
Hmm.
So when you lean in and you get to know people as individuals, see, that's where we can make a difference. And people ask me all the time, why do you live where you live? And I think because this is how we influence people. It's this abstract, a hatred that people have for people they don't even know. And then you lean
Come on,
in and you
Florida's
get
awesome.
I do.
Florida.
I
In so
actually,
many ways.
you know
So
what's
they
so
can suck it. What? I don't get it. Florida's
but what's so
awesome.
interesting is like that actually, as I said, the people on the ground. I mean, I was just at Bitchy Bingo in Naples, Florida, where beautiful drag divas were running the bingo and performing, and my kids were here over Christmas, and we were right there, and so it's just
How did I not go to that?
I know. Next time you're here, I'm taking you to
Mm-hmm.
Bitchy Bingo. You also
Mm-hmm.
have an open invitation, Jason. You come here. But the point is it's just leaning in. And Florida gets a bad rap because, and so do a lot of places where we just concentrate on the talking heads and the conservatism and the hatred, and we just keep perpetuating that. But when you actually talk to people, I find that they're actually pretty reasonable, and again, it's human
Right.
influence. And so I just want to thank you for being such an influencer, not only in the performing world and being perfectly you, but influencing our young minds, because what you're teaching them is that they can be authentically them. And man, when you show up in the world being exactly who you are, it's a beautiful and remarkable thing. So today, Jezebel Bardot, you have filled my bunny with, I'm going to say rainbow sprinkles. I think that's what my bunny is filled with.
For sure.
I love that. Thank
And
you.
I want to say one thing about Canada. Sylvia, do you know that Canada has a pastry called beaver tail?
I do. I know this.
Of course you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah. There's something that we have to ask all our guests now. So, Jason, do you make your bed every day?
I'm also like coming from a military family, whereas like if I wanted to go out to the movies or whatever, my bed's not made. My dad's like, absolutely not, right? And how
Ah,
can you get through your day if you don't make your bed? Like that's the first task of the day. And
oh,
there's this.
Jason.
Oh my gosh! Like
you've
this is
just
the spare
validated us.
this is the spare bedroom, so it's like this is the dog's bed. But anyway, but my bed is no. You have to how. How do you get anything accomplished if you don't
You
make your bed?
validated us. You validated us. But now we've
I
turned
feel
our
so
listeners.
complete.
Now we're going to have to make an apology
Mhm.
to listeners that
No.
don't make their bed every day. But I mean, listen, I would like to challenge our bunnies out there. Just make your bed. Just start out. It's make it
Mhm.
right away. And then now you have accomplished something, and that will set you on a forward trajectory of accomplishments throughout the day. Just start checking the box.
Jason, you know what's I have to say, kind of as we're diving toward the conclusion of our podcast, you have such a remarkable life. I can't help but think about you grew up in a military household and you have structure, you're an athlete, you are a performer, you're obviously an intellectual. You are a student of humanity and inclusion, which is totally different than tolerance, right? I mean,
Mm.
inclusion is really remarkable. You, it's striking to me that one would say that you have, if you were just one of those pieces, a military kid, what were you, the national champion in gymnastics? Crazy making, fantastic athlete, or you were this incredible young professional and educator, or you were a performer. Any one of those things would just be a source of pride, and I admire it. And broadly, we would say that is a really remarkable man. But all of that combined, I can't help but think that you're a bit of a talent hoarder, maybe. Like you have all kinds of fabulous. So there's a hoarding. We might start a new show. Like, how can you be all of that? It seems like they'd be conflicting, but they're so beautifully synchronized in this human that is Jason.
I really appreciate that. But, I owe a lot of, those opportunities to just really amazing parents. Both my dad's an Army vet. My mom is a fabulous woman. And I come from a family of Northern Quebecois, and it might look a little bit like Florida sometime because it can be quite conservative, and you think you have a rah military dad, but it's funny, but they just always just accepted me. They never steered me into any direction. They just let me be. And from a very young age, when I was like dancing like a little girl in the living room, it was, they didn't say, oh, don't dance like that. They just turned the music on a little louder, I guess. And, and I'm very fortunate that I have a big brother as well. And like, I owe him my entire gymnastics career, because I used to be like a little 7-year-old in the living room doing flips and smoking my feet off the coffee table. And then what happened one day is that my elementary school was getting rid of old gymnastics mats. And we lived like maybe 10-minute walk away from the school, 15-minute walk away from the school. And they were getting rid of those mats, and he was maybe 10 years old at the time. And he just grabbed them on his back. They were very heavy for a little kid, and he brought them home and he said, hey Jay, you're always flipping around, look, the school's getting rid of these, do you want like whatever, here, take those. And I learned how to do my first back handspring and my first backflip there. And fast forward 10 years later, and I'm on the national team, but it starts with people taking appreciation in your interests. And in order for people to open up doors for you, which I've had plenty of leaders and people in my brother and my family and bosses open doors for me, is by sharing a little bit about yourself. And if they don't have that information, that you like something, that you're interested in something, how can you help that person, move forward? So, a gesture from that little girl to just say, hey, oh my God, Mr. Slay, you look amazing. That's validating. I get to be myself. I get to, so I'm very lucky. So if I'm talented at all these ways, thank you. I still, sometimes feel very mediocre, but I mean, it's because I had amazing people around me. Just accept who I was and open a door and share. And I hope to do that for others. So yeah, I just try to.
Jason, you filled my bunny with maple syrup, Canadian maple syrup, or poutine. Poutine, is that the gravy? And something.
Oh,
I don't know.
We have a lot of really good stuff, but maple syrup. I'll. You know what? I have a treat for you next time you come into to Ontario, or if ever I go to the US, I'll bring you some good stuff.
There you go. I'll be up there in June. I got to say this, Kristen, before you really bring this thing home, Jason, this episode, my hunch is that our Hollow Bunny leadership podcast listeners are going to rewind this and listen to certain pieces of what you have given them over and over, either in their leadership role as a spouse, as an educator, as a leader, as a parent, as a something or other. I think you've expanded our field of view and really opened our hearts and made us super curious and equally committed to showing up for people in a way that gives them space to be psychologically safe and express themselves the way that they want to and need to. This has been a delight for me. My heart is, I got goosebumps.
Thank you.
I am so glad, Jason, that we had the opportunity to talk today, but more importantly, Wow, how lucky the world is to have you in it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I learned so much. You have filled my bunny with beaver tail. That sounds so dirty. You can find on Instagram, please follow Jezebel.Bardot, Bardot. Please follow on Insta. And I am so grateful to have you here. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank Ted Madden, who produces our podcast. And the song you are about to hear was written and performed by my performer, my son, Jake Zeman, and his accomplished friends, Fabian and Zoe. If you like this podcast, please punch that like button, review it, tell everyone you know about it. Yeah, subscribe to it. If you don't like it, what do you know about anything?
You don't
just move on.
know diddly squat. Just keep walking.
You don't know beaver. So please, everyone, keep filling your own bunnies with substance, and please add substance to others. Bye, everybody.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why? Have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and you're scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes to see a challenge and a question. Why not me? To fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all, and I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger, failing forward and moving onward, doing the hard thing and the right thing, forever fighting the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack. You've gotta start again.